Hello everybody, this is Gregory with 5 Minute Catholic Apologetics, where 5 minutes of your time may get you to the divine. Today we're going to talk about the great doctor of the church, Saint Jerome. Now before we begin, let's start with a prayer. Nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritui Sancti. Amen. Gloria Patri et Filii et Spiritui Sancto, sicut erat in principio et nunc et semper et in saecula saeculorum. Amen. Saint Jerome, he was born roughly around 342 AD and he died in 420 AD in Bethlehem. And he is one of the four original doctors of the church. We do already have a treatment on one of the other ones, Saint Ambrose. And the other two are forthcoming. That's Augustine and Gregory the Great, which would be the last one. He died in the early 7th century. And of course, he is well regarded. He is most famous, indubitably, for translating the Bible into Latin. This is known as the Vulgate. The Septuagint was the Bible in Greek, especially the Old Testament. And he was the one who translated the Bible from Hebrew into Latin. That's what he's most famous for. But he has an interesting life, and there's a lot of parallels with his contemporary, St. Augustine. Now, he was not born Catholic. He converted when he was about 18 or 20 years old, and he admits that he lived a pretty dissolute life. And I would say that he is one of these men that we could learn a lot from. We really can, because he had that path of redemption, like St. Augustine, like St. Paul, like these people. But he converted when he was about 20 years old. Later, he was ordained a priest. He was close friends with Gregory of Nazianzus, who we've talked about in the First Council of Constantinople treatment. And later on, he made his way to Rome. And in Rome, he was under the patronage of Pope Damasus, who we talked about on the episode on the canonicity of the Bible and how Damasus was really the one who said, these are the books of the Bible. So this is contemporaneous. The translation is actually a little later than Damasus. But this is roughly the same time. So when he was living in Rome, he noticed the dissolute lifestyle of the priests, of the Roman clergy. And so when he was there, he started translating the Psalms, the Psalter, into Latin. And they did have a somewhat not too great Latin version of the Bible at the time. And he started working on that, but he realized, we're going to have to start from scratch. So he got into some trouble. Damasus died. That was his patronage, or his patron, I should say. And since he was calling out the Roman clergy, they trumped up charges against him that he was having an illicit relationship with a woman by the name of Paula. And so he eventually had to flee Rome, and so he went to the Holy Land. Now, when he was in Rome, and in the later part of his life, the next 40 years, he was always preaching asceticism. We had talked about that. We have an episode here how we should try to practice ascetic of life. Prayer, fasting, turning off televisions, and so forth. So he is known for living in the desert and doing a bunch of translating and writing a lot of letters. He is voluminous in his letter writing. I mean, he's known for translating the Bible, and this took him roughly 25 years to do it. But he's also did commentaries on the books of the Bible, and he also wrote a lot of letters, over 120, and we still have a lot of these. He's, after St. Augustine, the most, I suppose you could say, well documented, or the person who we have the most original writings from. You go back to Justin Martyr and Ignatius and all these guys. We don't really have a lot from them. We go to those episodes, but like Augustine and certainly with Jerome, we have quite a bit. So he goes to the Holy Land. He meets with some rabbis, which, this is controversial. And he's like, you know what? The Septuagint isn't flying. I'm going to translate this. It's not divinely inspired. Now, Augustine didn't agree with him at the time. They were exchanging correspondence, and Augustine believed that the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Old and New Testament, was in fact inspired. But Jerome was like, no. So Jerome went and found the Hebrew, and he translated everything from Hebrew to Latin. Whereas what they had at this point was a translation from the Greek. But as you translate from language, you can lose a little. So he went and he did the Old Testament, I should say, from Hebrew to Latin. And he spent quite a long time doing that. And he remained the rest of his life. The woman that he allegedly had an affair with, Paula, and Paula's daughter actually went with him, and they all stayed in a monastery for several years in Bethlehem before he died. So what's the takeaway of Jerome? Jerome wrote a lot. Jerome translated the Bible into Latin, and then from the Vulgate, his translation. Then we get later on, 1,000 years later, we get the translations into English and into German, Spanish, and so forth. He's known for writing a lot. Now, understand, like a lot of his writings, not as bad as Tertullian. Go to the episode we have Tertullian or Origen. A lot of his writings weren't maybe the best, or maybe weren't 100% orthodox. And later, he did believe that he at one point believed that the deuterocanonical books, we have an episode here on Sirach and Tobit and all these, he at one point believed that they were not canonical, but later he changed his mind. But ultimately, some Protestants will say, well, St. Jerome translated the Bible and he didn't believe this book was canonical. It doesn't matter. He's not the Pope. He can have his opinion all he wants. We've even talked about this on the episode on popes, 4 misconceptions about the Pope. Any Pope could believe the moon's made out of cheese. Doesn't mean I have to believe it. So St. Jerome might have had some opinions on this book or that book. It doesn't matter. The Pope is the vicar of Christ. The Pope is the head of the deposit of the faith, of the magisterium. And he said, and Damasus actually talked about it in the Council of Carthage, Council of Rome, and all these things we talked about in that episode on canonicity. It was already established these were the books of the Bible, even before Jerome translated them into Latin. And then certainly Council of Florence and then Council of Trent said, these are the books. And they also said that the Vulgate, Jerome's translation, was inspired. So just imagine, just in closing, just imagine a period of time where we had Augustine alive, Jerome alive, Damasus, which is great, he's a saint, Damasus alive, you have Ambrose in Milan, you have the Greek fathers, Gregory of Nyassa is alive, Gregory Nazianzus. I mean, this was such a great time. Yeah, they're fighting Arianism. Yeah, they're fighting Nestorianism later on. But they're fighting all these things. We have some writings, I forgot to mention, that Jerome wrote against the Luciferians. The Luciferians were not for Lucifer, is named after a bishop. How they believe that bishops who went Arianist and recanted shouldn't be accepted back in the church. He also had writings against Origen. Origen is not a saint. He has some specious and controversial teachings. So we have that writing. But it was just a great time on some level, because Christianity was already legalized by Constantine 67 years earlier, and then we have this time where Theodosius I has made it the official the official religion of the Roman Empire. So it's just an interesting time to live, and it's similar to the time we're in now. It's a heady time, but this is the time that saints are made. Guys, post in the comments. Let me know what you think about Jerome. I forgot to mention his feast day is September 30th in the Catholic world. I'd love to hear from you. Please hit the notification, subscribe, and share button. Share with like-minded people. Until next time, take care. God bless and pray.